Welcome back to Chairman's Briefing in partnership this week with QC Copper and Gold. I'm Rachel Lee. Let's get into it. Forget rotisserie chicken. Costco's hottest item is now solid gold. The retail giant has struck a gold mine with its 1-ounce gold bars introduced last fall amidst a surging precious metals market. Wall Street analysts estimate monthly sales reaching a staggering $200 million earlier this year. In a recent earnings call, CFO Gary Millerchip reported double-digit growth in gold sales last quarter. This surge outpaced even popular categories like jewelry, toys, and housewares. Despite Costco's markup over spot prices, customers can't seem to resist the allure of owning a piece of the gold market's record-breaking run. Meanwhile, the big investment banks are scrambling to raise their price targets. Goldman Sachs was the latest. It raised its gold price forecast by $200 per ounce, from $2,700 to $2,900 by 2025. Goldman analysts said that moderating but still significant central bank purchases on the London OTC market would be mostly responsible for their expected target increase, with a gradual increase in exchange-traded funds following Fed rate cuts driving the remaining upside. Gold stocks, as tracked by the GDX and the GDXJ, aim to sustain their upside momentum after breaking out from its multiple-month sideways grind. As both mid-sized and senior producers head into Q3 earnings over the next few weeks, there's an allure in holding said producers as record-high gold prices underpin operations. Shortly after publishing our briefing last week, silver tagged levels that it hasn't tested in over a decade. It's currently swinging back and forth in a narrow range as the market ponders its next move. Now, silver is up roughly 37% year to date. Amelia Xiaofu, who is head of commodity markets at BOCI, said, quote, "Silver is going to continue to rally over the coming quarters because of the consecutive rate cuts and as China's stimulus could continue for some time." And Ole Hansen, head of commodity strategy at Saxo Bank, said, quote, "Silver is viewed as the relatively cheap sibling to gold, and as gold continues to reach fresh record highs and copper hits a 2.5-month high, traders pushed silver through resistance at $32.50. The price of copper continues to claw back the ground that it lost earlier this year. BHP anticipates that the rollout of EVs will lift the transport sector's share of total copper demand from around 11% in 2021 to over 20% by 2040. The company also expects global electricity consumption for data centers to rise from around 2% of total demand today to 9% by 2050, with copper demand in data centers increasing sixfold by then. This unsuppressible appetite for the metal comes at a time when some of the world's largest copper mines are getting long in the tooth, having been discovered and developed a half a century ago. Today, new discoveries are generally lower in grade and are deeper, making it more expensive to build and operate. A recent S&P Global study reveals that major new copper discoveries are becoming increasingly scarce. Now, while the total copper volume grew by 4% last year, most of this growth came from older deposits that were discovered in the 1990s. In the last decade, only 14 new major deposits were found, accounting for a mere 3.5% of total global copper. The industry's shift away from early-stage exploration is to blame, with grassroots projects now making up just 28% of budgets, which is a record low. This is in contrast to the component of exploration budgets in the past, which typically ranged between 50% and 60% in the 1990s and early 2000s. After a decade-long wave of reactor shutdowns in the U.S., Holtec International's Palisades power plant, which is on the shores of Lake Michigan, sealed a $1.5 billion loan that'll go a long way towards ushering in the first reactor restart in U.S. history. Holtec is a privately held nuclear technology company headquartered in Jupiter, Florida. They're targeting the fourth quarter of 2025 to reboot the Palisades plant, which is subject to approval by the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission. It's estimated that this reboot will support 600 jobs and provides electricity to light up 800,000 homes. David Turk, Deputy Secretary at the Department of Energy, said, quote, "We've been using all of the tools in our tool belt to support the nuclear energy sector, keep reactors online, and to bring them back. Of course, to finance advanced reactor deployment as well." This planned restart at Palisades blazed a path for Constellation Energy's recent decision to bring another U.S. reactor, called 3 Mile Island, back online by 2028. The Kamoa-Kakula mine in the Democratic Republic of Congo, a JV between Zijin Mining, Ivanhoe, and the DRC government, has an existing production target of roughly 600,000 tons. But China's Zijin wants bigger and is considering an expansion that would elevate this mine's rank among the world's largest single source of the metal. Zijin's chairman, Chen Jinghe, stated in a recent interview that he would like to scale Kamoa-Kakula to up to 1 million tons a year, a lofty target that would challenge BHP's Escondida output in Chile. Escondida was discovered back in March of 1981 and produced just over 1 million tons in 2023. So where does Ivanhoe stand on Kamoa-Kakula's expansion potential? Well, they're currently conducting an updated life of mine engineering study on the copper complex and will expect to be publishing the study in Q1 of 2025. Barrick, which is one of Mali's largest gold producers, has agreed to negotiate with the country's military government to resolve ongoing disputes. Now, this development comes after Mali introduced a new mining code in 2023, demanding a 35% stake in all existing gold mines. The situation escalated when Reuters reported the arrest of 4 Barrick employees last weekend. However, Barrick has since announced an agreement to find a global resolution to claims and disputes involving its Lulo and Gounkoto gold mining operations. This agreement comes against the backdrop of increased pressure on mining companies by Mali's military Junta, which took power in 2020. The junta's new mining laws have created significant challenges for foreign operators in the country. Now, while details of the agreement are yet to be released, this development marks a potential turning point in the tense relationship between Barrick and Mali's government. IsoEnergy announced acquisition plans of Anfield Energy a couple days ago, effectively securing near-term U.S. uranium production. The prize is the Shooting Canyon Mill in Utah, one of only 3 licensed uranium mills in the U.S. This mill is a game changer, potentially tripling its production capacity to 3 million pounds of uranium per year. The deal also brings together a portfolio of projects across Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona. This means much more efficient operations and lower costs, which is crucial in today's competitive market. IsoEnergy shareholders will own 84% of the new company, with Anfield shareholders owning the remaining 16%. QC Copper is set to acquire Cuprum Corp, securing the Theory Copper project in Ontario. This all-share deal catapults the company to top-tier level of Canadian copper developers, boasting 4.8 billion pounds of copper equivalent resources. Now, post-acquisition, the company will rebrand as XXIX Metals Corp, a nod to copper's atomic number. This strategic play consolidates key assets, bolsters infrastructure and development potential across prime Canadian mining territories. One of the biggest deals in the mining sector this year is closer to the finish line. In a special shareholders meeting, 99.9% of Filo shareholders approved BHP and Lundin Mining's takeover. At the heart of this mega merger lies the Filo del Sol project, a copper gold mine that straddles Argentina and Chile. With projected annual outputs of 66,000 tons of copper, 168,000 ounces of gold, and 9.26 million ounces of silver, it's a prize worth fighting for. Now, as the dust settles, Filo shareholders are poised to claim an 11% stake in Lundin. In the latest twist of Panama's copper saga, Finance Minister Felipe Chapman is eyeing a practical solution for First Quantum's idle stockpile. The government's considering exports of the stored copper concentrate, which is a move that could unlock value from the closed mine. Now, however, Chapman's drawing a clear line in the sand. Any talks with First Quantum hinge on the company dropping its arbitration suit against Panama. It's a calculated stance in a complex negotiation. The mine's closure has left its mark, denting Panama's economic growth and credit rating. Yet Chapman hints at potential paths forward, including shorter operating timeframes and enhanced oversight. Facing fiscal pressures, Chapman's taking a tough stance on his budget. He's implementing an expense freeze and targeting ambitious deficit reductions. The message is clear: Panama's balancing economic pragmatism with environmental and social concerns in its mining sector. A Glencore-owned mine called Kamoa-Kakula in the Democratic Republic of Congo is embroiled in a row over royalties with local tax authorities. The government claims a staggering 800 million euros in unpaid royalties, flexing its muscles by freezing bank accounts and briefly sealing off a metal warehouse. Despite the drama, it's business as usual at one of Congo's largest mines. Kamoa churned out an impressive 89,000 tons of copper and 11,700 tons of cobalt in just the first half of this year. The dispute hasn't dented production, but it's certainly raising eyebrows in the industry. And that's all for today. If you want these insights in your inbox every Thursday morning, subscribe at the link below. You can also catch me here on YouTube every week instead. Thanks for being a part of Chairman's. We'll see you next week.